The COP15 Biodiversity Summit in Montreal has delivered a commitment to protect 30% of the Earth's natural environment by 2030. Joining me for more on this is Greens Senator and Environment Spokesperson Sarah Hanson-Young, who was over there attending. How would you sum up briefly what's occurred over there?
Well, good afternoon, Tom. And this is an important step forward for the whole world. The global pact that was agreed to isn't everything that everybody wanted, but of course is an important step forward. That commitment to protecting 30% is now formalised, and more importantly, a commitment to stopping the extinction of species by 2030. Now, if we're going to do that, we need to start making sure we protect the rest of our natural world, and that includes the remaining 70%. It's very hard here in Australia for us to stop extinctions of animals if we continue to allow the destruction of their habitats. So a global decision that was very important, an important pact for countries all around the world, but now the spotlight is really going to be on Australia. What are we going to do? How are we going to uphold this commitment? And of course, the Greens will be holding this government to account.
So I guess just keeping it global though for a moment, it always staggers me some of the stats reeled off. I know one from Brazil that 110 football fields are cleared every hour, which is staggering when you think of it. This has been the continuing story over so many years. I know we talk about Indonesian clearing as well. Is the difficulty of this, is it similar to the sort of emissions reduction pledges, that we get the pledges and that the spotlight's on there, but does that actually happen? Are there clear ways to even measure it? And is this just going to be something that disappoints continually?
Well, this conference was hailed as the Paris Agreement for nature, that it needed to deliver on some specific targets, and we've got that in there in relation to the extinction commitments and the protection of that 30%. But you're right, how this is delivered will now be down to how governments actually respond. Will they put in the money? Will they genuinely attempt to meet these targets, or do they get away with weasel words? And I must say, one of the things that was disappointing from the Australian perspective in this is that a lot of other countries put a large amount of money on the table to help this global fight. Particularly for those developing countries where, like in the climate space, it's harder for them to deal with all of this without the financial support. So companies like Germany, France, others put a lot of money on the table, billions of dollars, and Australia didn't commit a thing. So I think we are going to have to consider that in terms of our global negotiations and global commitments as to, Australia needs to not just step up at home, but we do need to play a more supporting role in our region.
Are we going to see a push on biodiversity and environmental protection perhaps start butting heads with reducing climate emissions? We might need a hell of a lot of land for enough solar panels and add batteries in as well. Mining as well for some of these critical minerals we'll need for that. And even, for example, the wind turbines proposed for Wilson's Promontory. I know you were concerned about this in terms of ruining the local environment. Are we going to see those two competing interests butting heads increasingly?
Well, of course, what we've got at the moment is the fossil fuel projects that are still planned, that the government still has on their desk, are in areas where there is huge environmental sensitivity. The Narrabri gas project, Santos gas project, right in where we have koala habitat, and yet we know koalas are facing extinction. That can't continue to go ahead. We've got coal mine expansions in areas that are habitats of endangered animals. We can't continue to allow this to happen. But you are right, Tom. We have to start considering the biodiversity and nature in all of these conversations, because there is no way we are going to stop the climate crisis if we continue to destroy nature's own carbon sinks. And that, of course, more than anything else, are our native forests. And it's crazy. A big part of the discussion globally over the last few days was how countries can be supported and support business and communities to be planting more trees. Yet here in Australia, we have the Australian government, both various state governments and the federal government, allowing the destruction of our native forests, while spending money planting trees over here, yet ruining the ancient forests over there.
We've got to leave it there. We didn't have much time in the end because of that memorial we took, but I'm sure we'll talk next year. Senator Sarah Hanson-Young, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Tom. We'll definitely be talking about this a lot more.